In this lesson, we're going to look at bar graphs and line graphs. And when you're looking at these two types of graphs, you have to make sure that you're familiar with your axes and what the titles on those axes are. So the first one, a blank axis goes from left to right. That is horizontal. That's your horizontal axis. And a vertical axis goes up and down. Now let's look at this side-by-side bar graph. About how many years is a man in Cuba expected to live? And if you look at Cuba, and the men is the lighter gray, so on the left, and it looks like it's a little bit past 70, well, about halfway between 70 and 80, so I would say about 75. About how many more years is a Belgian woman expected to live than a Belgian man? Now, this problem's worded a little bit differently. So if we look at Belgium, I see that the women are expected to live, maybe that's like 81 or 82. We'll just say 81. And a Belgian man looks like it's below 80, so I'm thinking that's probably 75. That's about the same as the Cuban man. So about how many more years will a Belgian woman live? Well, it looks like about 6 years. Which country had the greatest difference in life expectancy between men and women? And that looks like Russia has the biggest difference in between the two bars. So I would say Russia. And then about how many years was the difference? Well, it looks like the women are just above 70, so maybe 71. And the men looks like they're right at 60. So about how many years was the difference? And it looks like about 11 years. And about how many more years was a man in Japan expected to live than a woman in Russia? So a man in Japan looks like it's just under 80, so we'll say 79. And a woman in Russia, we said, was about 71. The difference then would be 8 years. Now let's look at a line graph. The following line graph shows average SAT verbal scores for several years. Use the line graph for exercises 17 through 19. So how much higher was the average SAT verbal score in 2005 than in 1998? So we need to look at our graph. And in 2005, it looks like we are at about, 508? And in 1998, it looks like it's at 505. So how much higher was the average? Well, the difference between 508 and 505 would be 3 points. What was the percent of increase in the average SAT verbal score from 2002 to 2004? So let's look at that information on our graph. 2002 to 2004. So 2004 was 508, and 2002 looked like it's 504. Now for percent of increase, remember that's a ratio. And that's going to be how much of an increase, or what's the difference. So our increase would be 4 over our original score in 2002, which was 504. So I need to do this division, do this, and we will see what our percent of increase is. And when I do that division, I get approximately 0.8%. Because what I actually get, give myself a little bit more room here, 4 divided by 504, if I round it, is 0.0079. So as a percent, I move my decimal point 2 places, so it's going to be, and if I round to the nearest tenth of a percent, that's going to be 0.8%. In what year was the average SAT verbal score 508? Well, there was actually 2 years that it was 508 according to our graph. It looks like 2004 and 2005.